Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome. I'm Kasha,
And I'm Gabriel.
and today we wanted to just talk about couple sessions with us. And in doing so, we want to also share about our journey as a couple and what we've experienced personally through receiving couple sessions over the years. And we'll try to summarize that in a fairly short amount of time because we have over 10 years of history together, almost 15 actually now. So lots of ups and downs and quite an incredible journey inward, actually, mostly, and then overflowing together. But we'll get more into that.
Yeah, I think we wanted to talk a little bit, when we talk about couple sessions, I think it's also important to talk about the way we hold what we called sacred union, because ultimately that's kind of what we're serving here. And so there's, I think, a lot of different views and opinions and perspectives about sacred union. We heard a lot of twin flame narratives and things like that, which we started hearing a lot of, back in 2016. And then we were feeling it a bit differently from the twin flame paradigm. And so we really wanted just to talk a little bit about how we hold coupleship and sacred union for ourselves personally, how we hold it in DSE.
Divine Self Embodiment.
Divine Self Embodiment, so that you get an idea about kind of where we hold that. So where do you want to start with that?
It's actually a really important differentiation because sometimes when we think about sacred union and the way that it's held, tends to be held in spirituality, even aside from the twin flame piece, is this feeling of this is your person forever, or this is going to be locked in. This is how parts of me used to hold it, is that it was an attainment and often would cause a lot of suffering actually inside of me for just the sake of like, why is it so elusive? I'm doing all of this work. Why is he not here? Or why does this keep falling apart? What's going on there? And I think some of that for me personally was really coming from these, we could say, loftier ideas in some ways, idealization of sacred union and what it means and what it actually is. And I think just prior to us getting back together, I really started to get a clearer sense of what sacred union is from inside of me. So it didn't matter that all of these years I had been taught on the outside what it actually is from this paradigm, well, this work that we do. Not really a paradigm, but it's more like just this way of life, this way of approaching our inner work and our relationships together. Being taught that these ideas from other people's experiences is one thing, but then actually experiencing it for yourself is another. And I really had to be humble to the fact that sacred union is actually such a deeply personal experience. So even what we describe as our experience of sacred union may be different than what you experience because every union is different. And I think one of the heartbeat of sacred union though for us is about what's going on inside. So the inner romance, the inner union between parts, not even masculine, feminine, but just that's obviously part of it, but between the younger parts and the wizened parts, the priest, for me, the priestess and the queen and the maiden, and bringing all of those parts together is a part of the sacred union journey. And then how does that translate into romance from your experience, having that unity inside?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting that from a man's point of view, from my male perspective point of view specifically, I didn't really have a sacred union sort of focus. I wasn't really, I hadn't really much relationship to that until starting this work. And I know that women on the whole tend to hold that much more differently than men do. Not that there are men that hold that sacred union template inside of themselves as well. I was just a little bit different than that. So I've kind of grown into the sacred union piece. I think for me, starting off was really the piece that you're speaking to, is that sort of vertical piece from self to self was very important because I wasn't in love with myself. I didn't feel like I was in union with myself. I felt, disharmonious. There was disintegration. So it was trying to feel that sort of alignment within
Mm.
was really important to me going in
Yeah.
there, and recognizing that as you and I came in to relationship, how much all the inner stuff was being projected outbound, and vice versa. And so we had lots to work through around all that was going on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
that was affecting this here. So I always think of it as like the letter H. You've got your two vertical posts and you've got your
Mm-hmm.
horizontal post. And it's this vertical posting, this holding within, and your connection to the divine is really what allows that overflow and space to come in between.
Yeah.
And so that's really how we hold that couple space, that sacred union space. It's really about taking in and just feeling yourself personally, between yourself, between the world, between the other person that you're with as a whole, but really keeping it here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're meeting together in that couple space, then you can witness the other person in their journey and their process, and you get to reflect on that. So you have one that's personal, just from you to the facilitator to us, and then you have another one between with Kasha and I, where it's couple to couple, and we're feeling all those textures um, between each other. So you get to witness each other in a way that's you may not have normally otherwise.
Yeah, witnessing each other's parts and each other's process is actually the heart of this. And then there's karmic patterns that come up between a couple as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just karma in your own soul that you're working at the same time. And so how that comes together then as a couple, there's karmic patterns there to work out. And I feel like Gabriel and I have done quite a bit of that work over these years, but I think it's actually in our times of separation that really deepened
Mm.
to heal those patterns. Because in the bigger picture of it, for me personally, I can only speak to really my own process with that, was really healing the karma with men, with the masculine on the outside, and reconciling that inside as well with my own masculine. So there's so many layers to this. So when we say sacred union, this is what we're talking about, is this nuanced, multi-layer process of relationship inside with the divine and then with other, and how your inner patterns of relationship show up on the outside
Mm-hmm.
and even with the divine, and what projections come up. And it's all because divine union, sacred union, is a healing ground. It's a self discovery ground. It's not, that's why it's not really an attainment in a certain way. It is, I think, a sacred journey marker of I'm ready to step into this, and whatever it's going to mirror for me or bring up for me, heal for me or heal with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we hold it. So, in that way, too, we don't hold sacred union as a permanent state. It can be inside, but with another human being, you just don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And Gabriel and I have, in our personal journey together, been through so many different chapters of romance and then separation and then romance again. And it's actually been 3 years since the last time we were romantic together. So now coming back together has been this really tender
Mm-hmm.
thing, but it's also recognizing he needed that space, I needed that space, and now we can come together in a different way
Yeah.
too, because that vertical work really is what brings you together. It's not the work here, it's the work here.
Yeah. That
So
feels important to highlight, that
yeah.
the couple session isn't to necessarily help. It's like to keep the bond together. That's not to
Mm-hmm.
fix it or something. That's really
Mm-hmm.
important. Again, it's all here is the main crux of it. And then as that gets sort of sorted out, then the horizontal can shift, deepen, or it may complete, which is what has happened to Kash and I a few
Mm-hmm.
times, because the transactional ground, the relational ground, I should say, between us wasn't quite ready yet, because this wasn't ready yet. And so it is, there's grief, and it's just challenge, and it's not easy. It's not an easy um, yoga, you call it. I've heard
Sacred union yoga.
Ram Dass calling it relational yoga, and it's probably was the most challenging to do that, to be in relation to other vulnerably, nakedly. We're still working our edges and pieces around that, leading edges and trailing edges. It's an ongoing piece that we keep working through. And like you said, it's through the parts that we have, in our more, what you call egoic personas. There's also the karmic timelines and our soul histories that are playing and creating all sorts of interesting, dynamics here. And so we're ongoingly feeling these together. But we wouldn't be able to be where we're at if we hadn't had that space held from other. We'd be in kind of pretty much of a soup sometimes without some of that guidance supporting us and helping us get back here so that we can find a more authentic here.
There are so many times I'm even watching TV shows and movies and reality TV or whatever it is, and I'm looking at couples and individuals and their emotional heaviness, and also what's transacting or not in a coupleship, what the relational ground actually seems to be. And so many times I'm feeling the different parts at play or what could be going on karmically there. And whoa, that ground is probably not going to heal between them. They probably need some space. And or I can see different pathways that they could come back together if they actually stepped aside for just a moment to really feel themselves and feel what it is that's actually going on, because so much actually can't be resolved if you just keep going at something here. You have to separate, go into your own spaces. And sometimes that means completing the relationship, even for a phase, in order to feel who it is that you really are in that moment and what it is that you need personally from you to you and from the divine to you. And it is really hard to see those patterns, though, without an outside eye, like you're saying. If we hadn't been facilitated in this, I don't know where our coupleship would be or if we'd even be able to navigate coming back together, because it can be such an intense ground. And the level of intimacy that we feel sacred union invites us into would be so much harder to inhabit and embody and be in together if it weren't for support from the outside, from resonant hearts and souls on the outside who also feel sacred union this way and have their own personal journeys with that. So I don't think we are the same people that we would be, let alone the same couple that we would be if we hadn't had that.
We can look back at some videos from the past and see the changes compared to this one too. So it's just this ongoing thing. And it just feels like we want to just to briefly talk about what all of this means to us, how we could be of service to others in this space, because we've walked out so much of it in the completions and the enterings and the exitings. So it feels really important for us to express that to you, and also say again that we're not at the end of anything. We haven't achieved anything. It's ongoing, but we do feel like we want to support you in this deepening ground between you and another, but mostly with you first, and then to other, and then see what kind of beautiful deepenings can happen between you and your mate.
Yeah. And so that was just a very quick little visit of Gabriel and I's story. We both have our bios up on the website and writings about, even recent writings about our union and coming back together and what it's meant to us. But I just want to summarize a little bit more about what it is, because that it's been our journey, because it's been quite a legacy for us and really has taken us to some unique places. So it really, we met back in 2012, and as part of Soulful Heart, which has now become Divine Self Embodiment, which we live, breathe, walk out, and offer today. And we were friends at first, but there was some interest, and then we came together, and it was like, whoa. And there's an age gap between us too of 17 years. So there's no judgment for any couples who are exploring that too, or whatever that is for you. Because it really is about the soul and how the parts come together, and have the relationship itself really But we did have a lot to navigate even with that over the years too, being in that big of an age gap. I was 24 when we met. So it was like, just different phases rubbing together and different life experiences and having to get very real about that and how that could flow together or not. And then we experienced several different chapters, as I said, of needing to separate in order to really feel ourselves and feel what wasn't working for us dynamically in the relationship. There were these patterns that really weren't healthy for either of us, but we also advocate for going in anyway, even if some part of you actually can project onto the relationship already. This isn't going to work because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And those are all very valid reasons. And we want to validate those parts and how they see that. But we also want to be able to say yes to the relationship because there's enough love juice there to go into it. And I don't regret a single moment of going in with you or separating either, because it made me fall in love with myself more, even though sometimes the mirrors were excruciating. I don't think that's being dramatic to say that, especially in the separations, because then you're really looking at your stuff and you're looking at your shadow and learning to love your shadow. And I don't think sacred union, I don't think anything teaches us quite like sacred union to face and love our shadows because of the level of intimacy there. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is just reiterate where I was at that stage, and there's just a lot of wounding that was inside of myself that could only get fleshed out in the relational ground with Kasha, and that really highlighted a lot of inadequacy and self-judgment and projection. My relationship to women, that is, all comes back to lots of other inner things around my relationship and my imprinting from my father and my mother, and of course karmic stuff and soul pieces between us. So there's this huge thing going on there, and so it really needed to be sorted out internally. It couldn't have been sorted out here. It would just kind of get spun around. So it all had to be in here. So
you start looping on the same arguments, the same rumbles, and nothing seems to resolve because it's not really being felt deeply inside and to feel what's really there. But yeah, the mom wounding, the dad wounding, all of that comes up. Divine wounding, lifetimes of being devoted to the divine, feeling that in each other, the divine in each other. And then this, the downsides of that, because we're still human. It's quite a mosaic, and we are very excited to serve. So on that note, just one quick snapshot of what sessions could look like together before we conclude this today. It would look like having an individual session for each of you with each of us every month. So if you're the masculine, you'd be with Gabriel, feminine would be with me. So one individual session so that you can have that time that's just to yourself. And then one session where it's both of you together with both of us. So that session would be sessions individually are 90 minutes. So that session would be 3 hours. And with a break, obviously, in between. So each of you would have a turn to go and process and deepen your individual process and basically be witnessed by each other. And this is when certain patterns of the relationship itself can actually come up to be felt in real time between you. So these sessions are not a guarantee of the relationship, there being a glue that's created inside of the relationship to make it work. It's not about that. It's not couples therapy in that way. It's more about, let's blow on the embers of what's true, and let's also blow on the embers of what's true inside of each individual and see if it comes together in the next chapter. So it's really about getting very real and being witnessed in that together in this vulnerable way. So, yeah. Anything you want to add to that, or is that good?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Yes. Well, we look forward to meeting with you if that all feels something that's resonating in your heart and you're looking for some space to be held in that. We look forward to meeting you, and we offer just maybe an introductory call to talk about that too. and that's free of charge. And so we can talk about that if that arises for you.
Yeah, those intro calls are about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how much time we need.
Yeah.
But yes, please feel free to contact us and ask us any questions that you may have too. Okay.
Take care. Love to you.
Much love. Bye.